By the end of this episode, you'll question whether you've ever truly made a choice, or whether your entire life has been the unfolding of a script written long before you were born. Imagine this. A single spark erupts 13.8 billion years ago. The Big Bang. Energy explodes outwards, cooling, forming atoms, stars, planets. Eventually, Earth forms. Cells emerge. Consciousness arises. Now imagine something or someone telling you this. Every decision you've ever made, every thought you've ever had, every action you've ever taken was already set in motion at that first spark. Not by fate, not by destiny, but by cause and effect. This is determinism, and today we're going to dismantle it, rebuild it, walk through its history, its types, its paradoxes, and ultimately what it means for your life, your choices, your evolution. This is not just a philosophy episode, it's an existential journey into the structure of reality itself. Determinism, at its core, is the idea that every event, every decision, every action is caused by an unbroken chain of prior occurrences. Nothing happens randomly. Nothing is spontaneous. Everything is the result of something that came before it. If you traced every chain back far enough, you'd arrive at the beginning of time. That doesn't mean that humans have no influence. That's fatalism. Fatalism says that your actions don't matter. Determinism says that your actions do matter, but your ability to take those actions is the result on earlier causes. Picture millions of dominoes lined up. If the 10th domino falls, it's because the 9th did. The 9th fell because the 8th did, and so on. And this continues backwards, all the way to the first domino ever placed. If the Big Bang was domino number 1, then your decision to listen to this podcast is domino 9,342,118,000,222, or some other number that is vast. Most physicalist or materialistic views of the universe naturally involve determinism. Why? Because if everything is physical, atoms, neurons, chemical reactions, then every event is just physics following the laws of physics. But what about consciousness? What about the mind, the soul? Here's the puzzle. 1. The soul mind is part of the deterministic chain. Even your soul is influenced by prior causes. Or number 2, the soul mind can exert non-deterministic influence, closer to the idea of free will. Or 3, the soul exists but has no causal influence on the body or the world. It's epiphenomenalism. Your soul is a spectator. A video game character can feel alive and independent, can't they? But everything it does is programmed. The question is, are we programmed? Some people try and avoid the problem by saying, the universe is deterministic, but the creation of the universe itself was not. This is deism. Think of it like this. God lit the fuse and then took a step back. Everything unfolds deterministically from that spark. He sets the rules, then the rules take over. This solves the first cause problem, but it doesn't solve the problem of human freedom. Even in deism, your actions are still predetermined, just predetermined by a system God created. If everything you do is determined, are you responsible for your actions? Some argue yes, and it destroys morality. Others argue something far deeper, that morality itself may be a product of determinism as well. Humans evolved tribes. Tribes needed rules. Rules needed and created cooperation. Cooperation created morality. It's why do you feel guilt? Because evolution installed guilt to keep you in the tribe. Guilt is a survival mechanism. Even morality may be determined. Now, determinism falls into two camps: incompatibilism and compatibilism. Incompatibilism is free will, and determinism cannot both be true. There are subcategories too, because you get hard determinism, which is determinism is true, therefore free will is an illusion. You get libertarianism, which is free will is true, determinism is false. And then you get pessimistic incompatibilism, which is neither is true, we're passengers. But then you get compatibilism, which is free will and determinism can coexist. It redefines free will. You are free as long as you aren't forced, even if past causes shape your choices, which leads then to soft determinism, thought of by William James. The despair of hard determinism versus the responsibility of soft determinism. There is other views in terms of global history. In Buddhism, for example, is dependent origination. Everything depends on everything else. Your reactions are conditioned by your past. Or the Chinese is the I Ching, probabilistic determination. Laws are fixed, but your approach shapes outcome. The Greek atomists, Leucippus and Democritus. All is atoms in motion, pure physical determination. And then you've got Newtonian physics. Known initial conditions plus laws predict everything. It's where Laplace enters, and he said, imagine a vast intelligence that knows the position of every atom. It could predict the future, even your thoughts, as precisely as billiard balls colliding. Or in quantum physics, atomic events appear probabilistic. Some argue determinism hides underneath. Others argue it destroys it entirely. So let's step into the many shades of determinism, the lens through which philosophers, scientists and thinkers have tried to make sense of reality. Each type frames the world differently. Each asks a slightly different question about freedom, cause and effect. Causal determination is past plus present plus laws of nature equals future. The Rube Goldberg machine, a marble rolls down, it hits a lever, sets off pulleys and dominoes, and eventually flipping a light switch on. Once the first marble moves, the outcome is inevitable. You might spill a coffee because the table leg was uneven, which traces back to your carpenter's measurement, all causally linked. If you knew every atom and force, you could predict the spill perfectly. This is the classical billiard ball universe. Then you have logical determinism. Future propositions are already true or false. Is the future then fixed? A calendar lists on November 17th you will drink tea instead of coffee. Did you choose tea, or is it logically inevitable? A book where the last page is written before the first is opened. Tension without freedom. What about environmental determinism? Your surroundings shape you. Mountains, rivers, climates, landscapes determine opportunities, behaviours and culture. The Arctic child versus the Amazon child. The skills, priorities, temperaments are shaped by environment. A garden, soil, sunlight, rainfall sets growth potential. You may prune, but soil sets limits. What about biological determinism? Genes and neurobiology shape instincts, preferences and potential. IQ, risk tolerance, anxiety predispositions, addiction tendencies, partly inherited. Mind is a computer. Hardware equals genetics. And therefore it's inherited traits. You can update programs with experience, but you can't rewrite the BIOS. And theological determinism, and this is probably the most common one people refer to, is there is a divine intelligence, or God, that causes everything and knows or decrees all events. if God knows every action you take, is helping a stranger a free choice? Chess against an opponent who sees all your moves before you make them. You feel free, yet every move is already accounted for. And then there's emergentism. Fixed rules interact in complex ways, producing unpredictable patterns. Freedom feels real, even if illusory. Example, traffic jams. Deterministic rules, speed signals create emergent congestion patterns. A flock of birds, each follows simple rules, yet the flock moves in unplanned patterns. Your choices feel free because the web of influences is too complex to trace. Each type of determinism asks, how much control do we really have? From the laws of causality to emergent patterns, from genetics to geography, from logic to divine knowledge, determinism manifests everywhere, yet the illusion of free will still persists. It's like you thinking that you have free choice. You didn't pick your parents, you didn't pick where you were born, you didn't pick the school you went to, you didn't pick the friendship group and what you learnt about, the experiences you had at that age, and that has actually formed your personality today. People say, well, I can have the free choice to do anything I want. And the question is, can you? If you were asked, pick a number from 0 to 100, what would your answer be? Where would that answer come from? Would you just pick the most recent number you saw, or your favourite number, or try to trick the person asking you to come up with the most unlikely number they would guess? The point is that number comes from somewhere in your brain without you really choosing it. The number just arises and then you say it. Again, is that deterministic or is that a choice? Now it leads on to what could be determined as choice. Because if determinism is true, the personality is just genes, emotions is just childhood, preferences is environment, and habits is experience. You didn't choose fears, desires, strengths, weaknesses, worldview, or opportunities. You are a product of causes. But this is where it can get interesting. Because even if choices are shaped by past causes, the number that you picked was based on one of those key questions, you could still change the causes that shape your future. If you are based on the cause and effect of everything that's ever happened to you, could there be a way that you could choose something today that would change your perception in future? So your answer to any question is based on you specifically, your views on X, your views on Y's, your views on even Z's. But if you could change your programming to an extent by what you consume, if you only ever watched one TV program forever, it would be very difficult for you to answer questions about an obscure or complex topic because all you've ever watched is that one TV program. But when it comes to the TV program, you're probably going to be pretty screwed on and know most of, if not everything, asked. So can we change what we consume, who we spend time with, what we study or practice, what habits we build, what environments we enter, what standards we hold? Because these inputs will then rewire neural pathways, which then will reshape your identity, which then will influence future decisions. Even if those future decisions are deterministic, they happen by cause and effect. But the cause here is that you have now implemented, new vocabulary, a new idea, maybe from this podcast or from a book that you read or from what your friend told you. And that has now changed you forever. Every time you watch a film, your view on things have now changed forever. Your perspective on something has changed. Your view on whether someone was a good or bad actor has changed. What they physically look like has changed. And that will affect your future comments on that particular person or that particular area of interest. So the point is that you cannot change the past. But can you change the inputs that determine your future? You are the effect of yesterday, but the cause of tomorrow. And whether or not you believe free will exists or not, and whether it's all an illusion, because, if you go into a shopping centre, you can only really pick from what's available. And that sort of is the case for you as a person. You can't choose to double your intellect from 75 IQ points to 150. But can you choose the inputs in order to change your outputs longer term? Swap the TV program for the book. Swap the TV program for a podcast. Change who you are spending time with, because actually those conversations will change your personality over the longer term. Is there a point in time where we then have some control? Because as I said, as a child, not really much control you have. But is there a point now where you can actually control the deterministic side later on through an element of free choice? Or is that free choice really just determinism itself anyway? Is it that those thoughts of, I need to do this, is deterministic, in which case it's back to the determinism argument. There is no free will. There is no choice. But maybe there is. Maybe the choice is to affect future deterministic outcomes. Maybe we have an element of choice, even if it's not a huge one. Or maybe we have none at all. Again, where do you think we lie on the determinism, free will spectrum, as it were? How can you understand that? How can you make a difference in your own life? Or not at all, and just go with the flow? If you're deterministic, well, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Or is that a defeatist attitude? Thanks for listening. Just a shout out to our sponsors, Strong Coffee Company, Protein Pack Coffee. Visit them at strongcoffeecompany.com. Use code VANCRUX1 for 20% off. More Labs, clinically proven hydration and recovery drinks. Use code VANCRUX1 for 25% off at morelabs.com. And the liquor gummies, the electrolytes and vitamins for hangover prevention. Use code VANCRUX1 for 20% off at liquor.com. That's LIQURE.